Welcome. Tonight, let's escape together. To sun-drenched afternoons and salt-kissed skin, to quiet hotel rooms, starlit dinners, and the soft, slow moments where something shifts. This is a collection of stories about what can happen when the routine slips away and desire has room to bloom. 3 tales, 3 connections, each beginning on holiday. So get comfortable. Let the world go quiet. And come with me. Anything can happen when you leave home. You didn't mean to step so close to my world. You came here quiet, worn out. A city girl wrapped in noise and ambition, now tucked into a little cottage with salt on your lips and sleep in your eyes. I watched you from the cliffs that first evening, your silhouette backlit by the dying sun. Something in the way you lingered, at the waterline, at the edge of yourself, told me you were searching for more than rest. I left you flowers. The first night, a wild bunch of sea lavender and yarrow. Then warm bread, still soft at the center. No notes. You never asked who they were from. But you always smiled when you found them. And every night, from my tower, I watched your shadow flicker behind the curtains. I didn't mean to want you. But you kept walking barefoot down the coast at dusk. You kept looking up at the lighthouse like it meant something to you. You kept waiting. That storm, when it finally came, was a gift I wouldn't dare ask for. Thunder split the sky, and the whole village vanished into shadow. Only my beams swept the sea. Then I saw your lightless cottage, and a figure moving toward me. You. When I opened the door, rain ran down your face and your coat clung to you like second skin. You were breathless, half wild, half beautiful. And I forgot how to speak. You said nothing at first. Just looked at me like I was someone you'd been trying to imagine. I stepped aside. Inside, you let your body fall into the warm quiet of the lighthouse. My books. My fire. My silence. You let it hold you. And I let you stay. We drank tea laced with honey and rum. You curled into the old chair like it was yours. We talked, haltingly at first, about stories, cities, and why we leave the places we once called home. But as the night stretched on, the air changed. You asked me what I did before this place. I told you, not much. A man like me doesn't thrive in the noise. You said you didn't either. Not anymore. I asked what you were running from. You looked at the fire and whispered, "Everything that used to excite me now only devours me." I nodded. I understood. You asked if I ever missed touch. I remember how still I went then. How the air pulled tight between us. I said, "I try not to think about it." You watched me, your eyes soft and glowing in the firelight. "I think about it too much," you said. That's when you reached for my hand. Oh, your touch, light, curious, trembling just enough. You traced the calluses on my fingers like they told you something you needed to know. We didn't kiss yet. But your body leaned in like it wanted to, like it was waiting for permission that neither of us could name. You fell asleep in the chair beside me, lips parted, breath slow. I covered you with the old wool blanket. My fingers hovered over your shoulder longer than they should have. I wanted to run my hand down your spine, tuck your hair behind your ear, press my mouth to your temple and taste your quiet. But I didn't. Not yet. You came back the next evening. No storm, no excuse. You just knocked again, and I opened the door like I'd been standing there all day waiting for you. This time, you brought wine. You poured 2 glasses with the ease of someone who wanted to be seen. Your body closer. Your voice lower. The edge between us thinner. We sat by the fire again, but something had changed. You asked me what I liked? Not about the sea or the silence, but what I liked when I touched someone. When I was touched. I hesitated. So you offered first. You said, "I like slow hands. I like to be asked. I like when someone is patient enough to watch how I melt." My breath stilled. You turned your gaze to me, bold now. "What about you?" I told you, voice steady. I like softness after resistance. When someone lets me unwrap them, one word at a time. I like when a body trusts me enough to fall apart in my hands. You swallowed visibly, and I saw your thighs shift subtly. I asked if you wanted to be touched tonight. You nodded. Just once. So I moved closer. My hand found your knee, bare beneath the hem of your dress. I watched you watch me. My thumb traced slow circles on your skin, and your breath hitched. You said, I haven't been touched like this in so long. I almost forgot how much I missed it. I haven't touched someone who looked at me like this in longer than I care to admit. We didn't rush. I leaned in until my lips were inches from yours. You whispered, yes. Then I kissed you, soft, slow, tasting your lower lip before I deepened it. You opened for me like you were made to. Your hands slid into my shirt. My palms wrapped around your hips. You let out the smallest gasp when I pressed you into the chair. I kissed down your neck, and you arched into me. But still, I waited. You guided my hand under your dress, and I moved like I was reading a sacred text. Every touch a question. Every moan an answer. You let go in my arms, shivering, then laughing soft against my chest. You kissed me again, slower now. Deeper, wanting more. And I whispered, stay. You said, I was hoping you'd ask. You followed me through the narrow staircase, barefoot on the old wood, dress brushing your thighs, like it too wanted to be touched. I lit candles as we went, the golden light casting long shadows on stone. Every flicker felt like it revealed something we hadn't said yet. At the top, my bed waited, a wide, simple thing tucked into the round curve of the tower. Sheets like salt and linen. The sound of the ocean everywhere. You stood there for a moment, just watching me. Then you pulled your dress over your head. You didn't do it slowly for show. You did it like you were claiming something. Your need, your skin, your space in this room. And oh my, you were beautiful. Not perfect. Not polished. But real. Flesh and softness and heat. A body that had carried too much longing for too long. I stepped toward you, and you didn't flinch. I cupped your jaw in one hand and your hip in the other, kissed you with all the patience I'd been hoarding. You opened to me like something blooming at night, eager, hungry, reverent. We undressed me together, your fingers trembling slightly as you unbuttoned my shirt, pausing to touch the skin beneath. Chest, ribs, belly. You kissed my scars. I don't think you even knew you did it. That nearly undid me. We sank into the bed, and the silence between us wasn't silence anymore. It was breath. It was rhythm. It was the way you gasped when I kissed down your belly, the way your nails pressed into my shoulders when my mouth found the place that made you shudder. You held my head there like you drowned without me, and I moved with the slow certainty of a man who knew exactly what you needed. You came apart twice before I even slid inside you. And when I did, you moaned my name like you'd always known it. Your body opened to me, took me in, and I swear I felt your heartbeat where we touched. It wasn't hurried. It wasn't performative. It was real. Every stroke, every roll of your hips, every whispered, "Don't stop," was a prayer, a confession, a return to yourself. We moved like the waves, gathering, cresting, crashing. When you came again, you held my face in your hands and didn't look away. I followed seconds later, buried deep inside you, gritting your name between my teeth as I gave you everything I had. After, you curled into me with your leg over my hip, your head on my chest. I ran my fingers down your back, slow and idle, like I couldn't believe you were here. You whispered, "I wasn't sure I could feel this way again." I said, "Neither was I." You asked me why I lived up here alone. I told you, because I thought the world had nothing left to offer me. You looked up, half smiling. "And now?" I kissed your forehead. "Now I'm terrified of how much I want you to stay." You kissed me then, not hungry, not desperate. Just warm. Certain. And we fell asleep like that, bodies tangled, breath matched. The lighthouse turned slowly above us, sweeping light over the sea, but we didn't see it. Because for the first time in a long, long while, there was nothing left to search for. You were already home. The house creaked in its sleep. Somewhere, a shutter rattled lazily in the wind. Outside, the moon pooled silver light across the stone terrace, stretching shadows long and quiet. Gia sat up in bed. Something had stirred her. Not a loud noise, but a rhythm. A pulse. A presence that didn't belong to the night's usual hush. She turned slightly, any leg tangled in the sheet, mouth parted in a dream. Gia paused for a moment, watching the rise and fall of her chest, the curve of her shoulder. Then the sound came again. Faint. Wet. A gasp drawn too close. Gia stood. The floor was cool beneath her bare feet as she slipped down the hall. A door was ajar, just enough to tempt. She paused. Inside, dim lights spilled through linen curtains. The scent of salt and skin hung in the air, humid and electric. Lara was there. Kayla was straddling her, bare and golden in the moonlight, her back to the door. Her hands braced on either side of Lara's face. Lara lay beneath her, hair spread out like ink on the pillow, lips parted, neck arched. Lara turned her head, saw her, smiled. It was slow, certain, not surprised. Gia stood frozen in the doorway, her breath caught in her throat, one hand clenching the doorframe. She should have turned away. But Lara held her there without a word, without moving, even, as Kayla rocked forward, the sound of her body meeting Lara's making something molten unfurl inside Gia. It was a show now. A game. A test. Lara kept her gaze fixed on Gia even as she moaned, even as her hips lifted into Kayla's rhythm. Her fingers gripped the sheet, but her expression never broke. She was performing. For her. Gia swallowed hard. Her whole body was trembling, not with fear, but with the tension of being seen, chosen, teased to the edge of something she wasn't sure she could return from. The room smelled like sex and summer and risk. She stepped back. She stepped back. The hallway wrapped around her like the tide, dizzying and breathless. She reached their room on unsteady legs, slipped in beside the slow-breathing warmth of Kayla, and lay still. Too awake. Too full. And yet, her hand found the soft place between her thighs. The image of Lara, open, waiting, smiling, burned against the backs of her eyes. Her breath quickened. Her hips lifted. She came quietly, one arm pressed against her mouth, heart galloping. After, she stared at the ceiling, hollowed and aching. Lara had wanted her to see, and Gia had watched. The morning opened slow and golden. Somewhere outside, someone was slicing oranges, the sound crisp against the breath of waves below. Gia wrapped a towel tighter around her as she stepped out of the shower. Her body still hummed faintly. Not from the water, but from the night. From the shape Lara's smile had taken in her mind. Kayla was already up, hair wet and braided, legs curled beneath her on the terrace sofa, coffee balanced on one knee. She looked up, met Gia's gaze, and smiled like nothing had shifted, like nothing had been exposed in the dark. "Morning," she said, her voice low and lazy. Gia gave a nod, her voice still lost somewhere between her thighs and the shadows of last night. She poured herself a cup of coffee. The ceramic burned her fingers briefly, a welcome distraction. Then Lara stepped outside. Barefoot. Loose white shirt unbuttoned just enough. Bikini bottoms riding high on her hips, sun touching her shoulders like it belonged there. Gia didn't look at her, too directly, but she felt the weight of her. Kayla shifted to make space. Lara sat beside Gia. Close. Too close. Their thighs barely touched, and Gia could feel it like a current. Like her skin had memory now. Lara leaned forward to reach the sugar, her breast brushing Gia's arm, not quite accidental. Her hair smelled like sea and citrus and heat. Kayla sipped her coffee, watching them both over the rim. So, not really, Gia said, her voice hoarser than she meant it to be. Kayla raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Laura smiled like she knew, like she'd been waiting for the answer. She stirred her coffee slowly. Shame. We slept like babies, didn't we, Kay? Kayla exhaled through her nose. A sound that could have been amusement. Could have been warning. Gia stood. Too suddenly. I'm going for a swim. She left her coffee untouched, the towel falling from her shoulders as she walked away, deliberate now, aware of their eyes. Aware of her own body, her own heat. Behind her, silence lingered like steam. Laura watched her go. Her fingers traced the rim of her mug. Kayla didn't speak, but when Laura reached for the sunscreen and began rubbing it slowly into her arms, Kayla didn't stop her either. Something had shifted. It hadn't broken yet. But it would. The beach had emptied out by midday. Tourists had vanished under umbrellas or into naps. The tide rolled in slow, gentle, as if even the ocean knew something was building. Gia had wandered further down the sand, away from the house, until she found a cove cut into the rocks. Quiet. Secluded. She sat on a flat stone, legs pulled up, staring at the water like it might offer answers. She heard Laura before she saw her, bare feet against sand, the rhythmic thump of her steps breaking into the hush. Gia didn't turn around. You disappeared, Laura said. Her voice was easy, but it carried something under it. Something sharp and soft all at once. Gia shrugged. Just needed air. Laura stepped closer. She didn't sit, not yet. Just stood there, so Gia had to feel her, sun-warmed skin, the salt of her, the nearness of what they'd almost touched. What did you see last night? Laura asked, quiet now. Gia let the question hang. Her fingers curled into her knees. You know what I saw? Laura finally sat beside her. Their shoulders didn't touch, but the space between them pulsed. It wasn't planned, Laura said. Gia turned to her. Soft at first. A brush. A test. Then deeper. Gia made a sound, low, caught between hunger and disbelief. Her hands found Lara's hips, pulled her closer. Laura climbed onto her lap, straddling her, and the rocks beneath them didn't matter. Only the heat, the pressure, the friction of two bodies crashing through everything unspoken. It didn't last long, not there, not fully. Because when Laura pulled away, breathless, she whispered, Tonight. Our room. No more shadows. Gia nodded. And for the first time that day, she smiled. The fan spun overhead, rhythmic and slow, scattering the heat but not the hunger. Kayla lay curled on her side, the sheets tangled around her. She'd fallen asleep easily, sun-drunk and full of wine, lips parted in a soft snore. Gia watched her from across the room, perched on the edge of her own bed, bare legs dangling, body tense. The air was thick, salt and sweat and something else. Something waiting. The door eased open with a hush. Laura. She stood in the doorway, moonlight behind her. A slip of white cotton clung to her, one of Kayla's old shirts, loose at the neck, sliding off her shoulder. She didn't speak. Gia rose without a sound. They didn't look at Kayla. Not directly. Just moved with practiced silence, years of friendship granting them an almost psychic coordination. Gia opened the door to the adjoining balcony. Laura slipped through. Gia followed. Outside, the night was velvet, warm. The ocean a low hum beneath them. Laura turned to face her. Her mouth was already parted. I couldn't sleep, she whispered. Gia reached for her. Not roughly, not fast. She took Lara's face in her hands like she'd been dreaming of doing for months. maybe longer. Their lips met in silence, but the silence carried weight. Lara kissed like she needed it, no pretense, no performance. Her body pressed into Gia's, hands sliding under her tank top, fingers finding skin that quivered beneath her touch. Gia walked her backward until Lara hit the wall, a soft thud. Her thigh found its way between Lara's legs, coaxing a soft sound from her mouth. Gia swallowed it. "You sure?" Gia murmured against her lips. Lara nodded. "I came to your room. That sure enough?" Gia smiled against her skin. "I need to hear it." Lara exhaled. "I want you." It was all Gia needed. She knelt, kissed the soft swell of Lara's hip where the shirt lifted. Her hands tugged the hem higher, inch by inch, until the shirt bunched around Lara's waist. She kissed the space just above her thighs, soft, reverent. Lara gasped, her fingers sinking into Gia's hair, and Gia took her time. She mapped Lara with her mouth, with her hands. Every tremble, every sigh. She savored the way Lara fell apart, quietly, clinging to the railing for balance as pleasure took her in waves. Later, Gia pulled her in, wrapped arms around her waist as they sat on the balcony floor, sweat cooling, the sea still singing. Lara rested her head on Gia's shoulder. "I didn't expect this," she whispered. Gia kissed her temple. "Neither did I." Inside, Kayla shifted in her sleep. Outside, they stayed curled together until the first light broke the sky. "I know," Kayla said, "but I also know how new this is. I'm not trying to rush in. I just liked what we shared. And if there's still a place for me, I'd say yes." Silence. Heavy. Open. Then Lara reached for her hand. A silent pull. Kayla went easily. The three of them stood together, sun-warmed and slightly ruined by the night before. "Breakfast?" Gia offered, voice rasping. "God, yes," Kayla grinned. "But let's shower first. All three of us." Lara's laugh was soft, a little wild. "We'll never leave this room." "Good," Gia said. And that was that. The morning had changed them. But the story, it seemed, was far from over. The shower was already running, the glass fogged, the air heavy with jasmine-scented steam. Gia was the first to step inside. She let the hot water pound against her back, grounding her, easing the restless hum still vibrating in her thighs. She thought she'd have a moment alone. But then the door eased open, and Kayla stepped in without a word, eyes soft and curious. Gia turned to look at her, and Kayla offered a slow, easy smile. "Didn't think I'd let you take all the hot water." Then Lara appeared, bare, smirking, her hair pinned up loosely, skin glistening with promise. "I think there's enough heat in here without the water." She closed the door behind her, and suddenly, the space shrank, tight with steam, skin, breath. They stood for a beat, all three, listening to the water's rhythm. It was Lara who moved first, stepping behind Kayla to press a kiss to her damp shoulder. Kayla leaned back into it, her lips parting in a soft sigh. Gia reached out, tentative, her hand brushing down Kayla's arm, meeting Lara's at the wrist. They looked at each other across Kayla's body. Something passed between them, a wordless agreement. Then the touch deepened. Kayla turned and pulled Gia close, her hands sliding around her waist, her lips catching Gia's in a kiss that started soft and grew bold. Gia melted into it, heat curling between her legs. Lara's hands didn't idle. She moved behind Gia now, kissing down the back of her neck, her breast pressing to Gia's slick back, her fingers tracing the lines of her hips. Kayla let her lips drift from Gia's to Lara's mouth, catching her in a kiss that was playful, hungry. Gia stood between them, touched on all sides, and yet it was Kayla who gasped when Gia's hand found the swell between her thighs, teasing, circling. Lara caught the sound and smiled into her neck, whispering, "Let go," and Kayla did. Her head fell back as Gia sank to her knees. Water poured over her shoulders as Gia licked slowly, deliberately, like she had all morning. Lara held Kayla's hands above her head, kissed her open mouth, swallowed her nails. When Kayla came, it was with a cry that echoed off high. Gia stood, grinning now, breathless, and before she could move, Lara pushed her gently against the wall. "My turn," she murmured. "Stay still." Gia did. Lara dropped to her knees, placing Gia on top of her with practiced ease, hips slow and greedy. Kayla, still trembling, kissed Gia again, deeper this time, grateful, insatiable. She slid one hand between Lara's bottom, already slick and needy, stroking her to moans that vibrated against Gia's skin. 3 rhythms intertwined. No one was left watching. No one was forgotten. When Gia buckled, coming with a groan against Kayla's lips, Lara didn't stop until every tremor passed. Kayla kissed Lara after, tasting all of them at once. They held each other as the water cooled. Gia between them, kissed and cradled. Kayla's hand on Lara's waist. Lara's fingers tracing Gia's pulse. When they stepped out, toweling each other dry, laughing between kisses, they didn't speak of what it meant. Not yet. But the silence wasn't heavy anymore. It shimmered with promise. The ocean was all hush and shimmer when Kay stepped onto the deck, barefoot, still damp from the swim, towels slung low on his hips like it barely mattered. He didn't know I was watching from the shadows of the wheelhouse. Or maybe he did. With Kay, it was hard to tell. He had a way of being casual that felt deliberate, like every glance over his shoulder was half a dare. The yacht rocked gently under us, moored far enough from shore that silence had texture. Just the sea. The breeze. The slow creak of polished wood. He reached for the outdoor shower, the one near the stern. Turned it on. Cold water at first, and he shivered with a soft gasp. Then warmth. He tilted his head back and let it run over him. Chest, neck, the slope of his shoulders. He looked like he was trying to rinse off more than salt. I stepped out, slow enough that the boards didn't creak. He didn't turn, but I saw his posture shift, just barely. He knew I was there. "You missed a spot," I said. He glanced back. That smile. "You always say that. And I'm always right." He didn't move when I reached him. Let me take the sponge from its hook and run it along the dip of his back. He breathed out, almost a moan. "Not quite. Not yet." "Long day?" I asked. His voice was soft. "You worked me hard." I dragged the sponge over his skin, slow and firm. "You like when I do?" Kay nodded, quiet. "I want to hear you say it. I like when you work me hard." "Good. Good boy." I dropped the sponge and let my hands slide over him instead, slick, confident, no rush. The water had warmed him, but I could still feel the edge of tension under his skin. He wanted something. I could tell. "You've been following orders so well lately," I said, voice near his ear. "Almost like you're hoping I'll reward you." His breath caught. "I've been trying." I stepped in behind him, chest to his back, hands on his waist. "Then let me make you feel how good that effort looks on you." His hips twitched, barely. "I've got you." His skin was fever warm under my hands, slick with salt and heat and want. I pressed my chest to his back, letting him feel the full weight of me, not to pin, but to anchor. He leaned in with this low sound in his throat, something halfway between surrender and need. I reached for the shower controls, dialing the water a little hotter. Steam curled up between us, blurring the edges of the world until it felt like we were the only 2 men left floating on an ocean made of breath. "You feel that?" I murmured, lips brushing the back of his neck. "How your body answers mine." Kay gave a little nod, but it wasn't enough. "Words, Kay." "Yes," he whispered. I feel everything. Good. I trailed one hand down his front, slow, deliberate, until his hips bucked forward into my palm. He didn't beg, but he was close. I liked him like this. Responsive. Waiting. Trusting me to decide how far we'd go tonight. My fingers teased over him, not giving him everything, not yet. I wanted him soft with pleasure, half lost in sensation. I wanted him to know I was paying attention to every detail. The way his breath caught, the small tremors in his thighs, the way he tried so hard to keep quiet for me. "You're doing so well," I said, letting my other hand slide up to his throat, not to grip, just to hold, to remind him who was in charge. "So good for me." His pulse fluttered against my fingers. I pressed a kiss to the shell of his ear. "You want to come for me, right here?" He swallowed. "Yes, Jason." My name in his mouth. That was the reward. I wrapped my hand around him properly then, giving him the rhythm he craved, slow at first, drawing him up. He braced one hand on the wall of the shower, the other gripping my thigh behind him like he'd fly apart without something to hold. The sound of the water. The soft gasps he couldn't quite contain. The weight of dusk pressing close. It all built like a tide rising around us, until he stiffened, choked out a moan, and came hard into my hand, head tipped back against my shoulder, shaking just a little. I held him through it, stroking him down gently, whispering nothing and everything against his skin. "You did so well," I said again, once the quiet returned. "Come here." He turned in my arms, a little dazed, kissed me slow and deep, like gratitude. I let him linger. We had time. We ate barefoot on the aft deck, wrapped in linen and candlelight. The sea was ink black around us, moon-slicked and quiet. Just the occasional hush of waves against the hull, and the clink of silver against porcelain. Kay had showered again, on his own this time. But I could still see it on him. That glow. The looseness in his limbs. The way he met my eyes without flinching now, like something in him had been soothed open. He served the wine. I let him. Let him pour, let him care. The food was light, grilled fish, shaved fennel, something lemony. I barely tasted it. I was too busy watching him, how he tucked a stray curl behind his ear, how the candlelight danced in the wet edges of his eyes when he smiled. "You always this quiet after?" I asked, swirling the wine in my glass. Kay gave a breath of a laugh, eyes flicking up to mine. "I guess I'm just still in it." "In what?" His tongue wet his lower lip. "That space you put me in." I leaned back, watching him. "And what's it like, being in that space?" He hesitated, then said softly, "Like I don't have to carry anything. Like I can just be what you want." I nodded once. "You are what I want." Kay looked down, cheeks going pink. He toyed with the edge of his napkin. "You don't have to say that," he mumbled. "I don't say what I don't mean," I said. "You'll learn that." The silence returned, comfortable this time. The kind that lets the night wrap around you without pressure. After a while, Kay stood and came to sit beside me on the same cushioned bench. I let him curl against me, his head on my shoulder, the scent of salt and skin still clinging to him. I pressed a kiss to the crown of his head. Below us, the ocean rocked the yacht just enough to remind us it was alive. Around us, stars blinked like secrets. And between us, something slow and deep was building, something that wasn't just heat, but trust. I left the doors to the master cabin open. The night air came in gentle, salted and warm, brushing over our skin as I led Kay inside. He was quiet again, but not out of fear. He looked at me like I was the answer to a question he hadn't known how to ask before. I reached for his hand and brought it to my lips. "You still with me?" I murmured. He nodded. "No words tonight," I said. "Just feel." He let out the softest breath. A surrender. I undressed him slowly, like the body beneath the clothes was a secret he was only now letting me see. He didn't help. I didn't ask him to. I wanted to show him what it meant to be touched without expectation. Worshipped even. When he was bare before me, I took my time, palming the curve of his waist, kissing the place behind his ear, letting my mouth linger on his chest, his stomach, anywhere he tensed until he stopped tensing. I wanted him soft, open, bare in the ways he never got to be. He reached for me once. I caught his wrist gently, held it. Not yet, he whimpered, and I smiled. You're allowed to want, I whispered, but let me give tonight. The bed was wide and low, the sheets cool from the breeze. I lay him down and followed, pressing myself against his side, my thigh over his. My fingers traced slow circles over his belly. He tilted his head toward me, lips parted like he didn't know how to ask for what he needed. I answered him with a kiss. Slow, deep. My hand slid down, teasing, coaxing, learning the sounds he made when he was touched with intention. Every little moan he gave me, I took like a gift. At one point, he tried to speak, to thank me, maybe, or to say he didn't deserve it. I silenced him with another kiss. You don't earn this, I said into his mouth. You receive it. He broke then. Not loudly. Just a quiet hitch in his breath, a sudden wetness in his lashes. He clung to me, pressed his forehead to my throat like he couldn't bear to be seen feeling this much. I held him tighter, rocked him, let him be undone. Later, when the candles burned low and the air grew still, I curled around him and whispered, You're safe with me, Kay. Even when you're not perfect. Especially then. And for the first time since he stepped aboard my yacht, he slept through the night. No twitching. No flinching. Just peace.
The light came in gold, slipping through linen curtains like honey. I woke to the sound of water, gentle lapping against the hull, the hush of something endless. Jason was already half awake behind me, one arm slung loosely over my waist, his breathing deep and calm. I didn't move for a while. I just let myself feel it. His warmth. The stillness. The subtle ache in my chest that told me something had shifted last night. Not broken. Opened. I turned slowly, careful not to disturb the quiet, and watched him. His hair was tousled, lips slightly parted. That calm, commanding presence from the day before was still there, but softened. Unarmored. He looked like a man who had nothing to prove. And somehow, mine. I reached out, tentative at first. Brushed my fingertips along his jaw, then down the slope of his throat. He stirred, eyes still closed. You watching me, sweetheart, he murmured, voice like gravel in sunlight. Maybe, I whispered. A smile ghosted across his mouth. What are you thinking? That I want to touch you. Not because I owe you. Not because I should. I just want to. That made his eyes open. He looked at me like he was seeing something new. Then touch me, he said, voice gentle but certain. I'm yours. I kissed him softly at first. Then deeper. I wanted to learn him the way he'd learned me, what made him sigh, what made his breath catch. I rolled over him, straddling his hips, and he let me take the lead without resistance. No teasing. No smirk. Just that steady, unwavering gaze that made me feel powerful even as I trembled. I traced my lips down his chest, tasting salt and skin. My hands followed the ridges of muscle, the places where tension lived. I kissed the spot just beneath his ribs where he made the softest sound, and I smiled. Let me give to you, I murmured. Like you gave to me. You already are, he said, breath hitching. The next moments unfolded like music, slow, deliberate notes in a language we'd only just begun to speak. Not fluent yet, but fluent enough to understand each other in ways that didn't require words. Our bodies found rhythm not from experience, but from instinct. From the quiet knowing that this, us, was always waiting just beneath the surface. Jason responded to my touch like a tide shifting toward shore, strong, constant, drawn in by something unseen. I let my hands roam his body like I was learning a song by heart. There was no hunger in it, no urgency. Just devotion. Heat. Reverence, not for perfection, but for presence. I wanted to be there for every breath, every tremble. I wanted to give him back the tenderness he'd offered me without hesitation. Not to match it, but to honor it. To honor him. He let me guide him. Let me set the pace. Not because he couldn't take control, but because he knew I needed to give. And in receiving, he gave me more than I knew how to ask for. His fingers curled in the sheets, in my arms, in me, and when I leaned down to kiss the corner of his mouth, slow, reverent, like a promise, his hands loosened. His chest rose beneath mine, and he exhaled like he'd been holding it in for years. "I've got you," I whispered. "Just let go." And he did. Completely. His eyes never left mine, not when he arched beneath me, not when his body trembled, not when pleasure spilled from him like prayer. They held mine with something that went deeper than lust. Something raw. Something real. Like he saw me. All of me. And for the first time, I wanted to be seen. We moved together like that for a long time, slow waves, soft sighs, the creak of the hull beneath us and the sound of water beyond the window. The golden light shifted across our skin as the sun climbed higher, catching sweat and salt and the faint shimmer of breath between kisses. Eventually, when our bodies had quieted and the room filled again with the hush of morning, we lay tangled together, his arm around my back, my hand resting just above his heart. Our breaths synced slowly, like they were learning each other too. In and out. In and out. A private tide. He reached up, fingers gentle, and brushed a damp strand of hair from my forehead. "You're not the same man who boarded this yacht," he said softly. I didn't answer right away. The words caught behind my teeth, thick with meaning. With truth. "No," I finally said. My voice was quiet. Unsteady. "I'm not." He didn't ask who I was now. He didn't need to. It was in the way he touched me. The way he trusted me. And I wasn't afraid of who I was becoming. Not anymore.
Thank you for joining us tonight. If these stories moved you, soothed you, or simply kept you company, we'd love for you to stay a while. Subscribe, leave a comment, or explore more sensual bedtime stories crafted just for you. Until next time, sleep soft, dream deep, and let desire be your lullaby. Good night.